Welcome everyone to Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I'll be your mindset coach this evening, along with a special guest, Dr. Ann Lee. And Dr. Ann Lee is going to bring so much more to the table, so much more to Coaching in Session this evening. And what she's going to help us with is not only our mind, but also our body. Because what we put into our body is going to be essential to allow us to get to where we need to be in life. So if you have ever thought about getting better nutrition or just understanding the foods you eat, Dr. Ann Lee is an amazing person. Not only is she fun, but she's so knowledgeable in her field and in her craft. So if you're interested in working with her, all her links are in the description box below in the video. And you can always head over to drnaturalmedicine.com to get started and get working with her. So let's get into that interview now. Thank you, Dr. Ann Lee, for coming on Coaching in Session. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well. So, doctor, like you probably have heard this before. How was that process to become a doctor?
Everybody has their own unique journey through it. I basically went to school at University of Bridgeport in Connecticut for both the naturopathic program. It's a 4-year doctorate program, and then also a master in acupuncture, which is a 3-year program there. So that's kind of, the training that's required to become a naturopathic doctor.
And how's that been for you so far? Do you like it? Do you love it?
Oh, I love it. It doesn't really feel like work because, it's my passion.
Very good. Yeah. And when someone comes to you and they're interested in doing this type of care, what are some of their initial questions that they might ask you?
I get a lot of questions as far as, maybe just like the different modalities that I use and, how long does it take to reach my health goals and things like that.
And what are the main challenges you see with people? Is there a trend?
I would say the biggest challenge is, just our current stressful lifestyles and routines. There's never enough time to, work on either self-care or de-stressing, trying to get your nutrition in order. So that's probably the biggest challenges that I see.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I have so many clients reach out to me and they're trying to get in better shape. They're trying to get into a better mindset, but to take care of their mental health per se. And it is a challenge for people, not just simply because they have to take care of it every single day, but because some people don't even know how to begin. They just kind of allow life to happen to them. And then before they know it, they're stressed, they're depressed, they're anxious. And now they have a plethora of problems that they have to take care of. So when we look at self-care, what are some of the methods someone can use to begin self-care?
I think the biggest thing is just making it a priority and actually like scheduling it, putting it in your planner, because if you don't actually schedule it, it's always going to be put on the back burner.
And is there different self-cares that you would say are better than the others? So for example, self-care could be getting a massage or taking time alone to read and recoup or meditate, or it could be going to the gym or eating a salad, something healthy.
Yeah. So for each person, it's kind of, you want to pick something that you actually like look forward to.
Mm,
And that way it's like you won't make excuses, or, if you don't enjoy it, you're never going to do it, right?
Mhm.
So, some people, they enjoy, massages more than, say, acupuncture. Like, not everybody likes
Yeah.
needles, but if people finally get to the point where they try it and, they really do enjoy it,
Mhm.
then, that is one way as well.
Yeah. And when you were learning acupuncture, how was that? Was it like you had a student come in, or you had a patient come in and you had like a doctor looking over you while you were practicing?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, we had to do clinical hours.
Mm,
You in class, we started out, practicing on each other,
mhm,
and then you had to actually go into the student clinic,
mhm.
and, people would come in, and yes, you would be under a professor.
Okay. And were there any horror stories that you saw in the student clinics?
I mean, not anything major, I would
Right.
say. Just one time, you know, uh, a patient was forgotten, so they got acupuncture for like 2 hours.
Oh,
They
wow.
they took a power nap for 2 hours, and it was fine, but,
Yeah.
it was just a funny story.
Yeah, I went for acupuncture once here in Texas, and it's definitely an experience. And I encourage people to go out and to try it. And it's not going to be for everyone. I will say that.
Correct.
I know my brother had acupuncture done before, and he wasn't a huge fan of it. I did it once, and I enjoyed the doctor. He was wonderful. And I mean, it really helped. I was having some sciatica problems, and he was able to alleviate that like more than I thought acupuncture would.
Mhm.
Do you know the history of acupuncture? Any?
I mean, they say that it started in China, and, there's various like stories of how it started, but
Mhm.
I've even read articles that even in like Egypt, they've like,
Mm.
gotten some evidence that maybe it was even used there. So it could be even older than, you know, that. So yeah, I think it's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, those Egyptians kept everything secret, like the pyramids. But when we talk about acupuncture, we talk about health, nutrition. I went to your website and big on fertility. Is that something you primarily do, Karen?
It's not primary,
Hmm.
but it is a specialty of mine. So, and every season or whatever, it varies in terms of, I may have like a ton of fertility patients, or it may be just a few. So
Mm.
just depending on, when people are ready to be pregnant.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely. And what's the process on that? Is it just looking at their diet, looking at their history, genes? Like where does that start?
With that, every couple has such an individual, like,
Mm, yeah.
all the different factors involved. But yeah, I try to look at everything because the human body is so complex.
Hmm.
So, you do take a look at both of their diets. Of course, it takes, two people to make a baby. So
Hmm.
it's ideally able to work with, both partners. But,
Hmm.
what are they eating? What is involved, like all the stress factors? Because when all of your hormones are going into the stress pathway, then you have less raw materials to go into the reproductive pathway.
Mm,
Yes, you look at genes, structural things going on. And then also, mindset as well.
mhm.
Um, if there's an aspect of, always felt like they were going to have trouble, that could be a mental block as
Mm.
too.
That's interesting because I was just watching a video earlier today, and it was about someone who took an SAT and he scored a 1480, and the highest score you could score, I believe, is 1600. So at this point, he believes he's super intelligent, even though he was not going to class, he was failing. And he said, okay, I'm going to start going to class. I'm going to start applying myself. And he did well. And he created a magazine company, a successful magazine company. and he receives a letter down the road, I think maybe 13 years later, and it said that he was the recipient of the wrong SAT score. And his actual score was like a 740, 720, somewhere around there.
Wow.
So it's just a mindset thing where if you believe you think you can do it, then it's like, all right, we can do this. And on your website, you said, form the right mindset to maximize your fertility. Can we go a little bit more deeper into that?
Yeah, I think, that is a part of it. Like, believing that it's possible. And no matter, sometimes people go to the fertility center, and a lot of it is doing labs and looking at numbers, your
Mhm,
ovarian reserve, sperm analysis, and everything may not look the greatest on paper,
mhm,
but I have seen tons of cases where it seems impossible, but for that person, they just knew that it was going to happen at some point, and they just, persisted and kept going. And, any avenue that they could try to improve in, that they would work on, and obviously within their control. But
mhm,
yeah, it is kind of amazing how much mindset does play a role in it.
mhm. And I can imagine when you're going through that process of trying to have a baby, get pregnant, how stressful it is, how anxious you're feeling if it's not happening, especially if it takes over a year. Because I know I watched a video and she was trying for a year before she started to seek some assistance. And to have that 1 year thinking like we are trying to have a baby, but we're not being able to do it. So the anxiety, the fear builds up, the self doubt. Maybe I'm not able to have a kid. Maybe
Mhm.
something's wrong with me. All of that negative self talk is is your work helping people with positive self-talk, helping them believe that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're able to have a baby and we just have to go through the steps?
Yeah, a lot of it is like, hey, here are tangible things that you can focus on to improve your chances,
Mm,
versus like, given the notion, well, this, because of your age and all of that, these are your percentages or chances or whatever.
mhm,
Whereas I'm trying to give them tangible things that they can work on to improve, and that, it's like things that you can do versus like it's out of your control.
right. And does age play a factor? Maybe a little bit, or is it just something that is going to be by person to person basis, depending on their diet, health, and fitness for their whole entire life?
Yeah, I would say it is, individual
Mhm,
dependent, but when you improve your nutrition, what you're fueling your body with, you can actually, improve your the amount of the egg quality and
mhm.
stuff like that. So yeah, there's always stuff that you can do to improve.
Definitely. Can Let's talk about nutrition in the sense of how we can produce higher quality eggs, sperm, and just to have more energy in general. Because what I find, especially in my coaching, is that people have an ambition for something. So they want to do something, but they don't have the energy for it. Whether they have bad habits and they procrastinate, whether they just allow their smartphone to take over their whole entire life, or they just have poor eating habits. And I wanted to talk to you about those poor eating habits that many people have. And our society, especially here in America, there's a fast food restaurant at every corner. And if there's not a fast food restaurant, there's going to be a corner store where you can go get some donuts or some pastries. And before you know it, you just ate a bad meal with all the improper macros that are not going to be beneficial for you and to fuel your body.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get a little bit deeper into that type of nutrition if we can.
Sure. Any like specific questions?
Well, the first is to talk about the nutrition to fuel the body and how the foods we eat affect the body.
Yeah, I would say, the biggest thing when you're looking at is, you're trying to give your cells, your adrenals, like the right vitamins and minerals to actually fuel them versus giving your body foods that your body instead has to expend more energy to try to cleanse and detox from your system because
Mm,
it can't utilize it, so then it needs to actually start to get rid of it in your body, and that takes even more energy.
right.
So you want to give your body the things, the clean glucose for your muscles and your cells, not the processed sugar
Mhm.
glucose.
And from having the right nutrition, the right type of diet, could you supplement it with things like, okay, I just ate a bad meal, I'm going to eat a multivitamin. Does that help?
I would say with multivitamins, I mean, you have to think about it. They are in a way, they have to go through a process as
Mhm.
well. And a
Yeah.
lot of through the processing of it, it's taking out that hydration aspect of it. It's
Mm,
it's all like dehydrated and diluted perhaps. Whereas
mhm,
when you have whole foods, it has like everything that your cells need,
mhm.
including the hydration aspect to get it to, you know, be able to travel through your blood and absorb into your cells.
Okay.
But
So,
yes, I mean, supplementing is better than not supplementing.
yeah. And what do you say about cravings? I remember listening to a story where someone was stranded like on an island and they were eating fish. And they just had the fish meat, and fish are going to be nutritious, rich in omega fatty acids or minerals.
Yes. Mhm.
And they started to get a craving for fish eyes, and I believe fish eyes have vitamin B12 or 16, something like that. I could be wrong with the type of vitamin, but they started to crave the fish eye. Do you believe in that, where if someone's craving something that they should go for it?
To me, it's about like half and half. Like sometimes it is really the body, especially when people crave like sugar,
Mm-hmm.
your body wants that natural sugar because even your brain cells needs glucose to
Mm-hmm.
function, but people are generally giving themselves like the wrong kind of glucose. But
Mm.
then in another aspect, you may be craving something greasy
Yeah.
because you're not eating the right calories.
Mm-hmm.
You may be getting empty calories, right?
Yeah.
So then you're craving something fatty because your body's trying to overcompensate for all the empty calories you are
Mm-hmm.
having. So, it's kind of, yes, sometimes it is something you truly need, but sometimes it's also because you're uh, deficient and your body's trying to compensate.
And like something like an empty calorie would be like a donut per se.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's going to be something that doesn't provide you much nutrition or even energy in that sense, right?
Yeah, those are energy drainers.
Oh, so
'Cause-
when people go for coffee and a donut in the morning, they're actually doing a detriment to themselves.
Oh, yes, definitely. Because it's even with like caffeine, yes, you may feel like an initial like rush and be able to survive and get through what you need to get through, but then it is as at an expense, right?
Yeah.
It's forcing your body to run when your gas tank is low.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, there's a crash afterwards.
Yeah. So the addiction, though, from the caffeine, from the sugars, that's going to be there, right? We are addicted to them. People just like to have them and they crave them,
Hmm.
but they're not necessarily a good thing for us. So if someone wants to get rid of that caffeine, that sugar that is not helpful, what are some steps they can start to take to get rid of that addictions that are not necessarily helping them in their life?
Yeah, I mean, addictions are very, complex because each person has like own factors that they're dealing with. But I would
Mm,
say, just on a like physiological aspect, when you're running on adrenaline, you are kind of using up all the glucose stores in your liver, right? So
mm,
a very basic thing that you can do is start building up the glucose back again in your liver because it's depleted.
mhm,
And, the best way to do that is with clean glucose, which is, lots and lots and lots of fruit.
Hmm.
Even avocado is a good source as well.
Hmm. And you talked about the glucose is in the liver.
The liver stores glucose.
And
So
okay.
kind of like if you're working out, doing things, your body's constantly using glucose, but then if you use it all up, then it goes into the liver to try to get the glucose stores.
Mm,
Sometimes that can even be depleted, so it's good to start building that up again.
okay. Is any glucose stored in muscles or is it in a specific area?
Mm, I mean, glucose is like every cell in your body
Hmm.
uses glucose. So it's constantly like circulating in your body.
Mm,
But the liver is where it actually stores, like your reserves, and where when you need
makes sense.
more than what you need, it goes there.
Mhm. So to have a healthy liver is actually an important thing.
Oh, yes, because your liver does so many things for you. It stores the glucose,
Mhm.
it processes hormones, and then
Mm.
it cleanses and detoxes your body of all the chemicals and toxins that are out there.
So I guess the most logical question to ask is how can we start to cleanse our liver to have a healthy liver, foods we can eat, things we can do?
Yeah, so the liver needs fuel as well.
Mm.
So lots of like fruits, vegetables, potatoes, sweet potatoes are good sources. And then even just looking at all of the body products that you use and making sure that you're not putting more toxins into your body. Looking into water filtration systems, air filters, just basically anything that your body comes into contact with. If you can reduce chemical exposure, that puts less pressure on your
Mhm.
liver. And then, exercising, because that keeps everything moving in your body so that it can actually start cleaning out your blood and helping you to detox.
Mhm.
Um, some people, they like the sauna,
Mhm.
getting the sweat going through the exercise and going through the sauna, that helps to keep detoxing the body as well.
Mhm. And the liver does so many things. I know it does the detox. So we're drinking alcohol is going to be able to take away that alcohol because the body can't use it. So
Hmm.
it's getting rid of all the harmful things and protecting us. And I know the body starts to deteriorate not only if we have a poor diet, but if we have a poor mindset. And it could be stress, anxiety, how we, what we spoke about before, but it can also just be our own view on ourselves, right? The way we see the world, whether
Hmm.
it be in a positive way or a negative way.
Hmm.
If someone was thinking in a more negative way, maybe a pessimistic way. So let's say they're a Grinch, right? So around Christmas time, Grinch is like, "Oh, I hate Christmas and I don't like this," right? So this person's going to be maybe a little bit more negative, right? And not a
Hmm.
bad thing, right? It's just a different person, but they're going to be operating under that type of negativity, right? So their body feels a little bit heavier per se if you have all that type of negativity, self-doubt, anxiety, depression. So it's a plethora of things. So my question is if someone wants to get healthy and they start eating well and they're doing all the right things or eating well, but they still feel sluggish, do you think that's going to be something that's going to be in the mind, or maybe they're eating the wrong foods, or maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah, I would say, I always try to look at both aspects, and it's never like 100% one thing or 100% the other thing.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay. And even people who think that they eat well, there's always something that you can do to tweak it. Even myself, I'm like constantly working on improving my nutrition in some way.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really dial it down into the details with what they're actually eating and even like the quantity of it like throughout the week and stuff.
Hmm.
But then,
And
yes,
yeah.
also with their mindset because, I don't think anybody has like 100% positive mindset. So
Yeah.
there's always room for improvement there
Hmm.
too.
Definitely, definitely. There's a balance is the key. You can't have good without bad, almost like yin and yang. It has to be
Right.
there.
Yeah.
And I talk about it quite often because if you just have good in your life, everything's good. You don't necessarily know what you have. You have to have that bad to appreciate what you have.
Mhm.
And it's similar to the saying, you don't miss it until it's gone. And I find a lot of people don't realize that with their health. Our body is young. When we're growing up, we're able to do backflips, eat pastries, Pop Tarts, all this junk food, all this junk cereal. And
Mhm.
when we get older, we have those bad habits or those routines of eating this sugary sweets and all these processed foods that now our body's like, hey, I can't handle this anymore. Like we need to adjust. Is
Mhm.
there a certain age you see that happening where people's bodies start to slow down? I know for me, it was around 28, and I was active. I was always going to the gym, working out, doing my best to eat healthy. But
Mhm.
at 28, I noticed a change in my body. So I'm not sure if there's like a particular age that people will face this type of realization, like my body's not the same anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what I've come to realize is it is a correlation to when your liver starts saying, hey, I've like built up all these toxins and or
Mhm.
even like built up all of these like toxic thoughts, and I am like my vase is full now, and even though I'm constantly detoxing, it's like I'm overwhelmed.
Mm.
And so that's usually, and for everybody it is like a different age, but yes, I do kind of lately have been seeing it, late 20s, 30s, 40s. Those are kind of like around the time frame that I see it happen for people.
And I know you know what's happening in the world. It's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress eating, you can say, is happening. Do you think
Mhm.
that's going to speed up the process? So instead of it being in the late 20s, early 30s, do you think that it's possible that it's going to start to happen in the early 20s?
Yes, because even now I've seen, cases of people where they're having trouble finishing, like college because it's
Mm,
like things are becoming overwhelming for them, and they just can't handle it, like they're having a lot of health issues. So
mhm.
yes, I do think the trend is people are going to notice it younger and younger.
And now that is happening younger, right? So we have the body is breaking down things not as efficiently as it would if we were healthy from the start and we kept that for a long-term health. Now we have people who are going to be coming to you, of course, and they're going to say, I'm trying to have a kid, but I'm not able to. My body is just not ready. When that starts to happen, right? Where the birth rates are going to be in decline because people are not able to have the body that is going to be able to sustain that life, that baby, and to have to understand that people are having children later now. Like they are not having babies at 18 and 19 anymore. They're having babies when they're
Right.
like 36 years old.
Hmm.
So, how important it is, especially for single people who plan on having kids later, is it to get a jump start on their diet, their health, and nutrition?
Oh, it's critical. It's very important.
Mhm.
Definitely.
And what are some things that they can start to do, whether it be seek coaching, um, have a dietitian, meal prep? Like what are some things they can do? Like because I understand it's difficult, especially if they're a busy working professional. They might say, I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to eat a healthy breakfast. So they go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, they get a coffee and a bagel, and that's their breakfast. And then for lunch, they get whatever their coworkers are having, maybe pizza, it could be Mexican. It doesn't necessarily matter, but it's going to be fast food again. So it's not
Mhm.
necessarily going to be maybe the most nutritious food. Now, of course, they can opt for something that's more nutritious, like a salad, but it's going to be a habit where people are just so busy and so inundated with what's going on in the world, the stress, the anxiety. Now they're not necessarily taking care of their body until it's too late.
Right.
And many of the clients that I have typically have some type of trauma in their life that they come to me because there's a problem. They don't come to me and say, Mike, everything is good with my life. And I'm just making sure I'm able to stay on top of it. Very few people, I would say maybe 2%.
Right.
And how can we switch people from that way of thinking to wait until something is wrong to see a professional like yourself to help them with their nutrition, to help them with the process of having a healthy, strong body?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that is kind of promoting like a mindset change, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, we're trying to get like a sustainability mindset going on where you're trying to be proactive, more preventative versus like reactionary, right?
Right.
So yeah, there it is kind of promoting that and I guess helping people to see like the benefits that, when you work on something now, it's
Mhm.
going to cost you a lot less in like healthcare costs because
Mhm.
healthcare costs are pretty pretty heavy, right?
Right.
So, you don't want to have those costs at the end of your life. You want to be able to prevent those costs.
Mhm.
Um, and I think too, maybe just helping people realize like you don't have to do this alone. There is a lot of people out there, coaches, practitioners, and stuff to help hold you accountable. And
Mhm.
they can help you to do things in small steps so it's not overwhelming.
Right.
This week, let's focus on this. And then next week, we'll focus on this.
Mhm.
And it just makes it more practical and easier to implement in your life.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely the idea of the small steps is so beneficial, even in my practice, because if I give them a big step, the anxiety starts to kick in. Oh my goodness, I have to do this whole thing. It's a it's a huge project. It's daunting,
Hmm.
and that deters them from wanting to even take initiative or to get better.
Hmm.
And if we can make it so maybe in the morning, we focus on just the morning. Let's make the morning the healthiest meal of the day. And then we start to make lunch the healthiest meal of the day. So it's a slow process to get them to be more healthier, but not all at once. So we don't shock the
Right.
body, because if we shock the body, then the body's going to say, I don't know what's going on, but I don't like it. And it's almost like we just have to coerce it. It's going to be okay, let's go and we can do this together. And how
Mhm.
powerful it is to have someone like yourself in the corner of someone who's trying to get in shape or to have proper diet.
Yeah, I think it's, a huge help to have somebody there that will hold you accountable versus, when you're left to your own devices, you'll just go back to your old habits, right?
Mm, definitely, definitely. And so you said earlier scheduling, right? Scheduling is important.
Mhm.
Writing down, meal prepping, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I try to have people, keep it simple and, depending on, how they are with like going to the grocery store,
Mhm.
shopping the perimeter, coming home, washing everything and even just like chopping it, putting it into bags that are ready to go the next day and easy things that don't require like cooking and stuff. So it's a lot of it's okay to, snack throughout the day and just do a lot of like fruits and vegetables. So, yeah, just trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah. And I wanted to also talk to you about fad diets, right? So paleo, whole 30, keto, all of those different types of diets. Now, I know people are going to say, I tried keto and I lost 1,000 pounds, and they're going to say something. and along those lines, right? And it does work, right? Especially if we follow the guidelines per the diet. How healthy are those diets?
Yeah, I would say the drawback, I mean, I'm okay with using them if you have a very specific goal and it's like a short period of time.
Mm,
But long-term sustainable, they're very hard on the liver. The liver
mm,
has to process all of that like concentrated like fat and protein in like a short period of time, right?
mhm,
So, and we already talked about how the liver is really involved in, when people start to feel more sluggish.
mhm,
So yeah, you can lose, weight quickly, but then if it's hard on your liver over time, it then kind of makes it harder and later
mhm,
to, lose weight and stuff. So you just want to have like a good balance with it.
mm. Okay, so like people who are doing a short term is not necessarily a bad thing, but for a long term life change, we should be eating foods that are going to be nutritional, beneficial for us. Any recommendation on intermittent fasting? Is that something that's okay for the liver, or does it help the liver any?
So kind of the same concept, it's okay for a short period of time,
Hmm.
but with fasting, like how we say the cells, they need glucose to function, right?
Hmm.
So when you fast long term, you're kind of depriving your cells a little bit. And then what
Mm,
your body has to do is it has to rely on the adrenals, and then the adrenals pump out adrenaline.
mm,
And so then it has kind of like the effect of what caffeine does to your body, right?
hmm,
So intermittent fasting long term is really hard on your adrenals.
mm. And what happened if someone had a large amount of fat on their body and that now they're intermittent fasting, their body is saying, well, I'm going to use some of my fat stores because you're not giving me enough food to maintain this body weight. So we have our maintenance calories not being met, and now people are losing fat and maybe getting healthier, right? Because all that fat's not necessarily a good thing. Is that a good thing to lose that fat, or if someone is on the heavier side, whether it be because of genetics or bad eating, is it okay to have extra weight on, or is it a certain body weight we need to be sort of like BMI?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to kind of, because like BMI can be kind of, like people who have a lot of muscles and stuff, it
Hmm.
can be, not really accurate for them.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it is very individual based as far as like, how much fat you want to lose. And a lot of times, sometimes if you have a lot of fat, it's because you have a lot of toxins in your body, and the fat is trying to
Mm,
protect your vital organs from the toxins. So if you
mm,
actually work on cleansing and detoxing the toxins, then naturally you don't, need the fat. So
mhm,
it's like figuring out like the reason why somebody has, those issues,
mhm.
and then targeting the different therapies for that. So it can be different for each person.
Right. And they have all these fads. It's always a new fad almost every year, like a juice cleanse fad. And everyone will go get these certain juices that have whatever in them. I have never done a juice cleanse. I know people who have done a juice cleanse. Is that good? Like a juice cleanse?
I think it also depends on, like what are you adding anything to the juices, and like what mix of juices are
Hmm.
you using? So, you know, you don't want to do anything in the extreme,
Hmm.
but yes, like juice cleanses and stuff definitely okay to do like in
Increment short
serious
term.
Yeah,
Mhm,
increment, short period of time. You don't really want to be, doing juicing long term because that is kind of similar to like fasting, right?
mhm,
Your body still needs like fiber and calories and stuff like that. But yes, sometimes your body also wants to just focus on cleansing as well.
mhm. Why do you think people are so inclined to try a new fad diet or a new trend? So, like a juice trend, keto was big back, what, 3 years ago. Why do you think people are so inclined to try these new types of diets, these new fad diets per se? And maybe it's a mindset thing, maybe it's because it looks easy, etc.
Yeah, I think it is a mindset thing because I think a lot of times when these things are marketed,
Hmm.
it's marketed as a quick fix, right?
Mm,
This is your goal and you can get it quickly.
hmm.
But everything has consequences, right?
Hmm.
So kind of like what I tell people, the going slow approach may be more sustainable than that
Hmm.
quick approach that is draining your adrenals or is hard
Hmm.
on your liver.
Yeah, I read on your homepage something similar, right? And it's like your recommendations, like to work with you. And it's a slow process, right? It's not going to be overnight fix, like snap of the fingers, you are in perfect shape. And it's going to
Mhm.
be different for each person, I'm sure, because depending
Correct.
on where they are, it could take maybe a few more months or maybe even a year more, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person or that there's something wrong with them. It just means that their
Right.
journey is different. And
Mhm.
how powerful is that to instill that into people that their journey is going to be unique to them because they don't have the same body that their neighbor has. But then again, we show someone a perfect image of this is a supermodel, you need to emulate this person. How
Mhm.
powerful it is for when you're working with someone to tell them that you are where you are, and in order for you to get here, these are the steps, and we don't have to rush because we're not in a rush.
Right. Exactly. It's a marathon, not a race, right?
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. And this whole body image, if we can talk about that mindset, diet, why do you think that's so prominent? Do you think it's just a societal thing, like a peer pressure thing?
I think a part of it is we're all very visual beings, right? And
Mm,
we're being fed like so many types of like images, and even with like social media, that kind of uh emphasizes it even more because it has a comparison aspect with it, right?
mhm,
You're comparing yourself to somebody else.
mhm,
um but I think what I try to have people focus on more is, how do they feel? What is their energy levels? Are they getting the tasks that they want to get done throughout the day? How are their emotions? Are they feeling more joy throughout the day?
mm,
Are they having meaningful relationships, interactions with other people?
mhm,
So I think if you can have people focus on those things and instead of like the visual aspect of the perfect body, it really does help.
mm. So society has to slow down in order for us to slow down.
Hmm.
In a sense, because society is telling us how to think, how to act, what to eat. And before you know it, we are now just like everyone else, and our body doesn't necessarily act like everyone else's. We have a unique body.
Right.
And the foods I eat, I have had to work on, right? Especially as soon as 28 hit, I had to figure out what type of foods I needed to eat because certain foods, I would get bloated, I would gain weight more easily,
Hmm.
and I had to test out which foods worked for me. And now I almost have like a limited diet, but I don't limit myself if that makes any sense because I will still go out and I'll have those foods that are not necessarily the best for me, but everything in moderation. I'm not
Yeah.
going, yeah, I'm not going to go out and have foods that are not good for me, like pizza is not good for me, but it is delicious. And I have to say, okay, there's not going to be pizza for me unless it's going to be like a once a month type of thing.
Right. Yeah, I try to do that as well. It's like, okay, we're gonna be, good during the week. And then
Mm,
our weekends are our quote unquote, cheat days. Of
yeah.
course, you're not cheating like to the extreme or anything,
Hmm.
but it it just allows people to not feel totally deprived.
Hmm. And one of the final questions I want to ask you is like the body is the temple, right? So just that idea of thinking we take care of our body and it gives back.
Mhm.
Let's talk about your view on the body as a temple. Then I'm going to ask some follow-up questions on that.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you because, when you take care of your body, you actually, reach a higher potential. You
Mm,
have the energy to reach your goals. And when you're interacting with other people, there's like an energy about you, and people get like attracted to that. So you attract, the right kind of people in your life who can help you reach even higher goals.
mhm.
So yeah, I totally believe that as well.
So energy level is the next thing, right? So if we take care of our body, we have more energy. And just to give you a little bit of maybe an example, when I first started to get back into shape, when I moved to Texas, because I was in Connecticut and I moved to Texas, and my last months in Connecticut were very poor eating habits. It was going out. And when I moved to Texas, I said, I'm going to go back to who I know I'm supposed to be, right? Eating
Mhm,
healthy, eating well. And it took, again, it took me to realize because I was 28, and it took me realizing what foods were good for me, what foods gave me energy. And I learned certain tricks like drinking lemon water in the morning gave me more energy than if I had a energy shake or a protein shake.
mhm,
It was the lemon water that was enough to jolt me up and say, all right, let's get to business.
mhm.
So talking about energy level with that body is the temple thing.
Um, I guess I'm trying to figure out like specifically what you want me to delve into with that.
Okay, so basically, what foods are going to give us the highest amount of energy? Now, for me, if I have pasta, for example, I'm going to be a little bit more sluggish. But if I
Mhm.
eat chicken and vegetables, I feel a little bit more energized. But for me, I have learned in my body that I do need some type of carb down the road. So that would be like a sweet potato. It could just be regular mashed potatoes. I do need some type of carb. And I
Yes.
can't have too much rice per se, because then I get bloated. So I've learned
Mhm,
my body almost to the point where I was like, okay, I know exactly how much I need to eat. I got two scales. I started weighing out all my food and I
mhm,
figured out what worked for me.
mhm.
And that allowed me to have more energy.
Yes.
And when I had more energy, I was able to do more in my day because we all have 24 hours in our day. And there's
Right.
something that separates the highly successful from the people who just allow life to happen.
Mhm.
And so the question is like going down, how can we get the energy of those highly successful people?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of touched upon it on like a good detail level, but when you look at the foods,
Mhm,
you're trying to look at the foods that have like more colors of the rainbow because
mhm,
they have more like antioxidants and vitamins and nutrients, minerals that your cells can actually utilize and perform, all the functions that you need, the brain power that you need to plan your day or to interact with people.
mhm.
So yeah, I would say, like the more colors that you have in your diet, the more energy or higher vibration your body can go to.
Is there like a pyramid that someone should be focusing on, or is that going to be unique to their body?
I would say unique to your body. So kind of, what you were saying, you had to figure it out for yourself. It
Mhm,
is a journey, right? So be okay with the process of experimenting and you can even journal, when I eat, blueberries, this color, how do
Mhm.
I feel? When I have more yellows and reds, how do I feel?
Mhm.
So it can be a fun process to go through.
And is this something that you assist people with who are on that journey to finding out the foods that are going to work for them?
Yeah, so how I kind of approach it to try to get people to do it in like a step-by-step process is
Mhm.
I kind of look at like what they're eating already, and then I just make little tweaks
Mm.
here and there that I know, they'll notice like a difference. So then when they notice the difference, they're like, okay, what else can I tweak,
Yeah.
the next time around?
Mhm. No, that's actually powerful. The small steps to change something and to do you ever like tell them to stay away from certain foods or it's just always like, hey, just add this?
Yeah, I'll do a combination. Like usually what I try to do is when I'm taking away something, I'm, substituting or alternating it with something so people don't feel totally deprived. It's like they
Mhm.
feel like they have, healthier options
Mhm.
to focus on.
And
So
is
yeah,
there
it's
like a
kind of like a give
ratio?
and take.
Yeah, is there like a ratio? For example, if you take one of their things that they're eating, so let's say they eat Cheerios and you're like, okay, I don't want them to eat Cheerios anymore. So you say you can eat blueberries, granola, and yogurt. Do you do like a ratio like that where you give them like three things that they could eat and take away one of the bad things? Or do you do like a one and one type of takeaway?
It's a good question. I probably like vary it depending on, like how busy people are, like
Hmm.
do they even like going to the grocery store? And so yeah, everybody
Hmm.
kind of has a different situation. So, some people you can kind of sense, okay, they can handle a little bit more, whereas this person, maybe just one thing.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that question is because for the brain, it takes three positives to get rid of one negative. And
Mhm.
not necessarily that the food they're eating is considered a negative, right? Meaning it's bad for you. You shouldn't be eating this food. Shame on you, right? Because that's going to be now looking at yourself and it's going to affect your mindset.
Right.
But now if we give them like three foods and they're like, okay, well, like this actually makes sense. I got three good foods I can eat. I chose these foods. And
Mhm.
then they're not so hurt about getting rid of one thing. That's why I asked about the ratio. I wasn't sure if there was like a ratio used to get people to not feel bad about losing something they used to do.
Right, right, right. And I think too, it's just, like explaining to people, hey, when you focus on these foods, you're going to get more energy and you
Mhm.
won't get that like food coma afterwards, and just kind of really focusing on like the benefits of the foods that you're trying to have them gravitate to.
Mhm. And what percent, this would be like one of the final questions, is food diet? And early on, when I was young, I was probably like 17, 18 at the time. I was at Planet Fitness. And I remember there was an older guy in the gym. He was like 72 or something. He looked amazing. He was in better shape than me. And I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? He said, I eat well. And I asked him, like, what do you eat? He's like, I eat chicken, vegetables, and fruits. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So I have to eat chicken, vegetables, and fruits. I'm thinking in my life. But then I was like, I love all these other foods. So I didn't necessarily want to give them up. But then I saw who he was. And I look at, for example, my father who is having health issues because he eats poorly. I see the disparity between the two. One is eating healthy, one is not. What
Mhm.
percentage would you say is eating healthy and working out? Do you think working out is the whole picture? Dieting is the whole picture? The gentleman said, and this could be wrong, this is just a random guy in the gym. He said it's about 70%. What would you say is diet compared to working out?
I I do agree with him that, what you put into your body makes a majority of a difference. Because I have seen people where, they don't care what they eat and they work out, and it can, it, they'll still do well, but then they have like a plateau period, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, and exercise is definitely important, but I think nutrition food is like the basic foundation of everything.
Hmm. So it trumps it.
Mhm.
Got it. Got it. And how important, right, is it to be aware of the foods we put into our body, similar to how it's so important to put good thoughts into our mind. And it's almost as our body knows what it needs to do, it's just that we forget sometimes. And to have someone like yourself helping people, reminding people that they are going to be able to do this, they are going to accomplish this, they are going to be healthy and fit and not have to live a life full of anxiety, depression. That's
Mhm.
powerful.
Yes, definitely. And I think, for us, it's like being that example for other people, right? So when
Mm,
they can see, hey, this is possible, this is a person that's been working on it for, you know, close to like 10 years. And, you can see that it's making a difference for them. So I can do that too.
mhm. Yeah, that's powerful too. I'm a big believer in walking the walk. And of course, I am a mindset coach. I have to have a strong mindset. That's what I believe.
Hmm.
I I was talking to someone the other day about fitness. And I told them, I was like, you wouldn't want someone to coach you who was out of shape, maybe not the ideal body that you're going after. Not saying that they don't have a good body, but like we don't want to be judgmental, but they don't have the body that you're looking for. And this person is your trainer. You're going to subconsciously put this person on the back burner saying, okay, I'll listen to you, but I don't really know if I should listen to you.
Hmm.
And to
Hmm.
have someone like yourself who takes it seriously, that eats well, that lives that lives exactly how you talk, that is going to be a short tell sign that you are a professional, you're an expert in your profession, and that you're going to be someone valuable to be in anyone's corner per se, to help them along the way.
Hmm. Definitely. Definitely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ann Lee, for coming on Coaching in Session. Any final thoughts or anything you want to say?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here. And, I love what you are doing and helping people reach, their fullest potential.
Of course. And all your descriptions are going to be in the box below. So if anyone wants to work with Dr. Ann Lee, you can go to her website, sign up, and you can get to work to getting a better and more healthy body.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.